While fixing her chest plate, the alien queen whispered, "Careful, that part's sensitive." The royal hangar of the Zellarian Empire was silent in a way that made even seasoned guards uneasy. The chamber was vast, built from smooth silver stone that reflected soft blue light from the ceiling crystals. At the center stood Queen Aerith Valkyra, ruler of 1,000 systems, unmoving as a statue. Before her stood a human. Elia's ward adjusted the small tool in his hand and tried very hard not to think about where he was. He was not a soldier, not a diplomat, and certainly not royalty. He was an engineer, a quiet one. He had been hired weeks ago to assist with maintaining foreign technology aboard a trade station. He never imagined that job would bring him face to face with an alien queen, whose name made entire star systems fall silent. The queen's ceremonial chest plate had been damaged during a recent emergency jump. The alloy was rare, ancient, and designed long before humans ever left their home planet. Zellarian engineers had tried to repair it, but the design no longer made sense to them. The metal reacted badly to modern tools. After much debate, someone had remembered that humans were good at fixing things no one else touched anymore. That was how Elias ended up here. "Proceed," Queen Aerith said calmly. Her voice was smooth and steady, but Elias noticed something else beneath it. Not fear, not anger. Something closer to restraint. "Yes, Your Majesty," Elias replied, keeping his eyes focused on the fractured joint near the center of the chest plate. The armor hovered slightly away from her body, held in place by a soft gravity field. Even so, Elias worked carefully. Every movement was slow, precise. One wrong motion could damage a symbol of imperial authority, or worse. As he adjusted the stabilizer field, his fingers brushed close to a glowing seam in the metal. The alloy pulsed faintly, responding to his proximity. The queen leaned forward just a fraction. "Careful," she whispered. "That part's sensitive." The words were quiet, meant only for him, but the effect was immediate. The guards stiffened. Advisors exchanged stunned glances. A single breath seemed to echo through the hangar. Elias froze. Apologies," he said quickly, pulling his hand back. "I didn't mean to." "You did nothing wrong," the queen said, straightening. Her tone returned to its usual calm authority. "Continue." Elias swallowed and nodded. He went back to work, though his heart was now racing. He did not understand Zellarian biology, but he understood trust. And that single whisper meant the queen had trusted him with something personal. That mattered. As he worked, Elias noticed something strange. The chest plate was not just armor. It was part of a larger system, an old one. The metal carried faint energy channels that reacted to stress and movement. Over time, those channels had shifted, making certain areas uncomfortable or unstable. No one had questioned the design because it was tradition. Elias frowned slightly. He said nothing. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the soft hum of tools. Slowly, carefully, he adjusted the internal supports, redistributing pressure and reinforcing weakened points. The metal responded almost eagerly, settling into a more balanced state. The queen exhaled softly. "That is better," she said. Elias allowed himself a small, relieved breath. "Good. The structure was uneven. It's strong, but it hasn't been updated in a long time." A murmur moved through the advisors. "Updated," one of them repeated sharply. "This armor has protected our rulers for generations." "I believe it has," Elias said respectfully without looking up. "But even strong things can improve." The advisor bristled, but the queen raised one slender hand. "Continue," she said again. Elias finished the immediate repairs and stepped back. The chest plate settled into place, its glow steady and calm. For the first time in a long while, it looked comfortable. The queen flexed slightly, testing it. Her eyes widened just a little. "This feels different," she said. "In a bad way?" Elias asked, worried. "No," she replied. "In a way I had forgotten was possible." Silence followed. The advisors did not know what to say. Neither did the guards. A Zellarian queen did not speak of comfort. She spoke of duty, endurance, and strength. Elias lowered his tools and bowed slightly. "If there is nothing else, Your Majesty, I'll return to my quarters." "Wait," the queen said. He stopped. She turned to face him fully now. Up close, Elias could see the faint patterns along her skin, shifting gently with her mood. They glowed softly, not with threat but with curiosity. "You noticed something others did not," she said. "Why?" Elias hesitated. Speaking honestly to a queen felt dangerous, but lying felt worse. "Because humans break things," he said simply, "and then we have to fix them. Over time, we learn where things hurt, even if they don't say it out loud." A few advisors looked offended. The queen looked thoughtful. "Leave us," she said to the court. Gasps followed, but the order was obeyed. One by one, the hangar emptied until only the queen and the human engineer remained. Elias stood very still. "You are not afraid," the queen observed. "I am," Elias replied honestly. "I just don't let it decide for me." The queen considered that. "Our empire values endurance," she said. "Pain is seen as proof of strength." Elias nodded. "For humans, strength is knowing when something needs to change." The queen looked down at her chest plate, then back at him. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "that is why your kind survives where others do not." She turned away and walked toward the far exit. "You will remain in the palace," she added. "There is more I wish to understand." Elias watched her go, unaware that in that moment, inside a silent hangar, history had shifted. Not through conquest, not through force, but through careful hands, honest words, and a whisper that changed everything. The guest chamber given to him inside the palace was quiet, clean, and far larger than any room he had ever stayed in. Soft light flowed along the walls like slow water. A Zellarian rest platform rested in the center, shaped to fit a body that was not human. Even so, Elias lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the queen's words again and again. "You will remain in the palace." It was not a request. When morning came, palace attendants arrived without sound. They brought simple clothing made for humans and guided Elias through long halls filled with symbols of Zellarian history. He noticed how often servants and guards glanced at him, then quickly looked away. Whispers followed him like distant echoes. The human who touched the queen's armor, the human she trusted. Elias kept his head down and his hands still. He was brought to a smaller chamber, circular and open, with tall windows looking out over the capital city. Floating structures drifted between towers of light. Ships moved silently in the sky. At the center of the room stood Queen Aerith. She wore the chest plate again. This time it rested naturally against her form. No tension, no faint energy flicker. "You adjusted the balance," she said without turning. "The pressure no longer builds." Elias nodded. "The old design focused on holding everything rigid. That causes strain over time. Living bodies don't work that way." She turned slowly to face him. "Many before you saw the discomfort," she said. "None spoke of it." "They might not have been allowed to," Elias replied gently. The queen studied him. There was no anger in her expression, only thought. "Walk with me," she said. They moved together through a private corridor overlooking the city. Below them, millions lived their lives under her rule. Elias felt the weight of the moment. A human engineer walking beside an alien queen was not something history had prepared him for. "Our empire teaches from birth that rulers must endure," the queen said. "Pain is silent, weakness is hidden." Elias listened carefully. "But endurance is not endless," she continued. "Over centuries, even traditions break. I have felt this armor grow heavier with each cycle. I believe the fault was mine." Elias stopped walking. "With respect, Your Majesty," he said, "that belief has broken more people than any enemy ever could." She stopped as well. Slowly, she placed one hand over the chest plate. "You speak boldly for one so small," she said. Elias met her gaze. "Humans learned long ago that silence doesn't make pain noble, it just makes it last longer. For a long moment the queen said nothing. Then she nodded once. "Come," she said, "there is something I wish to show you." She led him into a restricted archive, sealed and guarded by energy fields that parted only at her presence. Inside were floating records, images, data, memories of past rulers. Elias watched as images of queens before Aerith appeared, each wearing the same armor. "They all wore it," she said softly. "Each believed it was their duty." Elias noticed something else. Each image showed slight changes in posture, subtle signs of strain, small adjustments passed down unconsciously. "It's not just armor," Elias said quietly. "It's a legacy of silent suffering." The queen's patterns dimmed. "What would you change?" she asked. Elias hesitated. This was no longer just repair work. This was cultural ground he was stepping on. "I wouldn't remove it," he said carefully. "I would listen to it, adapt it. Let it support the ruler, not test them." The queen considered his words. That same day, word spread across the palace that the human engineer had been granted extended access to royal systems. Some nobles reacted with outrage, others with fear, a few with curiosity. In the council chamber, tension grew. "He influences her thinking," one noble hissed. "He is an outsider," said another. "He questions sacred tradition," a third warned. But Queen Aerith listened to none of them. Instead, she summoned Elias again, this time before a smaller council. "Speak," she said to him. "Explain what you see." Elias stood alone before beings far older and taller than him. His hands shook, but his voice remained steady. "I see a strong empire," he said. "But strength should protect life, not wear it down. Your systems are powerful, but they were built for a time when survival meant constant pressure. Times change, bodies remember." A counselor leaned forward. "And humans think they understand us." "No," Elias replied. "We understand ourselves, and the cost of pretending nothing hurts." Silence followed. The queen rose. "Enough," she said. "This discussion is not about humans, it is about truth." She turned to Elias. "You will design a revised ceremonial system," she commanded. "One that honors our past but does not harm our future." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Elias blinked. "Your Majesty, that will affect more than just you." "I know," she said. "That is why it matters." From that moment on, resistance began to grow. Some guards looked at Elias with open distrust. Some nobles began quiet plotting. A few advisors warned the queen that change would invite weakness. But the queen did not waver. Late one evening, Elias found himself back in the hangar, adjusting a prototype. The door opened silently. The queen entered alone. "I did not realize how much I carried," she said quietly, watching him work. "Not until I set it down." Elias smiled faintly. "Most people don't." She studied his hands again, the same careful hands that had touched something sacred without fear. "You humans are strange," she said. "You endure much, yet you seek comfort without shame." "We see comfort as recovery," Elias replied. "Not failure." The queen nodded slowly. Outside the palace, rumors turned into debate. Debate turned into unrest. An empire that had never questioned pain was beginning to listen. And at the center of it all stood a quiet human engineer, unaware that his careful choices were shaping the future of an entire galaxy. It arrived in looks that lasted a second too long, in conversations that stopped when Elias entered a room, in guards who stood a little straighter and watched a little closer. The palace still shone with calm light, but beneath it, tension slowly grew. Elias felt it everywhere. He worked in a quiet design chamber now, one approved personally by the queen. The room was filled with floating models of the ceremonial system he was redesigning. Old versions hovered beside new ideas, slowly rotating. Some designs looked familiar. Others were clearly different, lighter, more flexible, shaped to move with the body instead of against it. Elias adjusted a projection and rubbed his tired eyes. He was not trying to change an empire. He was trying to stop something from hurting, yet the two had become the same. Across the palace, Queen Aerith faced a growing problem. Members of the High Council had begun to question her judgment openly. Not in anger, but in concern, which was more dangerous. They spoke of tradition, of image, of how the galaxy watched the Zelarian Empire for signs of weakness. "The armor is a symbol," one counselor said calmly. "To alter it is to alter how we are seen." "Symbols that cause harm must evolve," the Queen replied, "or they become lies." "The human has filled your thoughts," another added carefully. Queen Aerith's patterns glowed softly, steady and controlled. "No," she said, "he has cleared them." That answer did not satisfy everyone. A formal challenge was proposed, not against the Queen, but against the change itself. The Council requested a public demonstration of the redesigned ceremonial system. If it failed, the project would be ended. If it succeeded, it would move forward under strict oversight. The Queen agreed. Elias was informed that evening. "A public test," he repeated quietly. "Yes," the Queen said, "before the Council and the people." Elias felt his chest tighten. "That armor was never meant to be tested like that. It's symbolic." "Symbols are strongest when they endure truth," she replied. Elias nodded slowly. He trusted his work, but this was not a lab. This was politics. Preparation took days. During that time, Elias noticed small things. A servant who brought him extra food. A junior guard who quietly thanked him for making the Queen look less burdened. An older advisor who said nothing but watched him with thoughtful eyes. Not everyone resisted change. The day of the demonstration arrived. The grand forum filled with representatives from across the empire. Tall beings of many shapes and colors gathered beneath a high dome of light. Floating screens showed images of past rulers, reminders of tradition and continuity. At the center stood Queen Aerith. She wore the redesigned ceremonial system. At first glance it looked the same colors, the same symbols, but to those who understood structure it was different. It moved subtly as she moved. It rested, not pressed. It supported, not constrained. Elias stood to the side, hands clasped, heart racing. The council leader stepped forward. "This demonstration will test endurance, presence, and command posture," the leader announced. "As tradition demands." Queen Aerith inclined her head. She stood as protocols required. She spoke as rulers before her had spoken. Time passed. Something unexpected happened. She did not strain. Observers began to notice. Her stance did not shift. Her breathing remained calm. The faint glow patterns on her skin stayed balanced, not flickering under pressure as they usually did. Whispers moved through the crowd. The council ordered the final phase, a prolonged command address, known to be physically demanding. The Queen began to speak. Her voice carried across the hall, strong and clear, not forced, not controlled by effort. It flowed naturally, carrying authority without tension. Elias felt his breath catch. This was the difference, not more strength, less suffering. When the demonstration ended, silence filled the forum. The council leader looked unsettled. "The system has altered the experience," he said carefully. "This may change how rulers perceive duty." "Yes," the Queen replied. "It changes it from burden to balance." A counselor rose suddenly. "And what of resilience, of sacrifice?" Queen Aerith turned to face them all. "Sacrifice that destroys the one who serves is not honor," she said. "It is waste." The words echoed far beyond the forum. The council withdrew to deliberate. Hours passed. Elias waited in a quiet corridor, staring at the floor. He did not know if he had just helped the future or ended his place in it. At last, the Queen returned. "The council has approved the redesign," she said. "Not unanimously, but sufficiently." Elias let out a breath he did not realize he was holding. "But," she continued, "they have requested further study, and they wish to understand the human thinking behind it." Elias looked up. "Me?" "Yes." In the days that followed, Elias spoke more than he ever had in his life. He explained human design philosophy, the idea that tools should fit people, not the other way around. He spoke of rest, of recovery, of how endurance without care leads to collapse. Some listened, some argued, some quietly changed their minds. Outside the palace, the people noticed something else. Their queen stood taller, not because she endured more, but because she carried less. That image spread faster than any decree. A worker adjusted a harness to ease strain. A pilot modified a seat design. A commander shortened training sessions to prevent long-term harm. Small changes, human ideas, not imposed, adopted. One evening, Queen Aerith stood with Elias on a balcony overlooking the city. "You have shifted more than metal," she said. "I didn't mean to," Elias replied honestly. She gave a small, rare smile. "Change often comes from those who do not seek power," she said. "That may be humanity's quiet strength." Elias looked out at the lights below. "For us," he said, "strength is surviving long enough to learn." The queen nodded. Beyond the palace walls, the galaxy watched. An empire known for endurance was learning something new. And soon it would be tested, not by force but by choice. The galaxy noticed change before it understood it. Trade envoys spoke quietly of a Zellarian queen who no longer looked strained during long councils. Observers noted how her presence felt calmer, yet stronger. Reports described an empire that still stood firm but no longer looked rigid. Change made others uncomfortable. Within the High Council, a final concern rose like a shadow. Not rebellion, not force, something more subtle, dependence. "If our systems now rely on human thinking," one counselor warned, "what happens when humans are not here?" Instead, she summoned Elias one last time, not as an engineer but as a voice. They met in the same hangar where everything had begun. The space felt different now, less tense, more open. "You have given us tools," the queen said, "but tools can be copied. Thinking must be learned. But what you've started won't need me." "Today," Queen Aerith announced, "we end the belief that endurance must equal suffering." "These principles did not weaken us," she continued. "They revealed what was already strong." The redesigned ceremonial systems would become the new standard, not just for rulers, but for all critical roles. Training doctrines would include rest and adaptation. Engineers would be encouraged to question old designs respectfully. The announcement shocked the galaxy. Some praised it, some mocked it, some watched carefully, waiting for failure. Elias prepared to leave quietly as he preferred. On his final day, he stood aboard a small human transport ship, checking systems one last time. He did not expect ceremony. He was wrong. Queen Aerith arrived alone. She wore the ceremonial system, not as armor but as symbol. It moved with her, light and natural. "You will return to your people," she said, "and carry this story with you." "Neither did I." "Careful hands," she said softly, echoing her first whisper. "They change more than metal." The Zellarian Empire did not fall. It adapted. Its leaders ruled longer, clearer. Its workers lasted without breaking. Its people spoke more openly about limits and found their strength grew because of it. Other civilizations noticed. Some asked questions. Some invited humans to consult. Humanity did not arrive with weapons or commands. They arrived with questions. Does this hurt? Long after Elias returned to a quiet life among his own kind, stories spread of the alien queen who had changed her empire by admitting discomfort, and the human who showed that strength was not proven by silence. Historians would later write that the moment which reshaped interstellar culture was not a battle, it was a whisper, and humanity became known not as conquerors but as something rarer, the species that taught the stars how to breathe.